I'm here beneath the iconic corkscrew at Alton Towers in Staffordshire, England. This is a resort that I've admired for quite a while now, and I'm finally here. So let's see how my first theme park experience outside of the US goes. So the Alton Towers theme park resort is built around the historical structure of Alton Towers, which has been here for a very, very long time, and we've continued to make investments into keeping the historical quality of the grounds intact. And I know for some things like for one of the rides, Hex, they had to basically sign a contract saying they were going to do minimal damage to the towers, and whatever they did had to be easily reversed and fixed. So basically just the beginning of the queue is in the actual towers, and then it branches off into a fake section of the towers that they built that can easily just be detached, to my understanding. It's really interesting to see a historical site used this way. I think there isn't much in the way of actual historical tours of the building, so you can't how castles are a big tourist destination in the UK and Europe. I don't think you can really do that here. Maybe you can, and I've just missed it. But it seems like it's just sitting here, kind of being the equivalent of Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty's castle. But it definitely is cool to have kind of the icon of a park be an actual real historical structure. So I just did Hex, Legends of the Towers. I went in knowing exactly how it works, and I was curious how good the illusion is. I was surprised. It works really well. So essentially it's a room that rotates around you while the seats that you're in are on a platform that kind of tilts back and forth to kind of give the sensation that you're the one rotating around the room. And I was like, okay, if I know how it works, how well am I going to be fooled? I was pretty reasonably fooled. It does feel like you're defying gravity and rotating all around this thing. And there was a lot of really good show to it with lighting effects and narration and multiple pre-shows that set up the story. It was really cool. I like that. I heard some people coming out saying it was strange and underwhelming. I mean, I guess I could kind of see that, but for my sensibilities, it was a very cool attraction. Behind me is the Smiler, which holds the world record for the most inversions on a roller coaster at 14, and is my most anticipated ride at the park. Hopefully it lives with my hype, and I love the theme song. Smiler was awesome. I have been marmalized by the Ministry of Joy. So it definitely has 14 inversions. They aren't all loops, so that statistic is a little misphrased, I think, but it was a good time. It wasn't as intense as I was expecting. I still think Pantheon at Busch Gardens is scarier, but this is a really fun breeze to go through a bunch of loops with some cool music and some pseudo-oppressive theming. I liked it. So Oblivion right behind me is the world's first vertical drop coaster or dive coaster, and it was really cool theming of this light and dark and what is this mysterious thing in the Oblivion. Kind of that hole there is dark and there's mist coming out, so at the top you can't really see what is down there, and that kind of adds to a lot of anticipation of dropping in there. And it has, let's see if I can, don't look down, it says there, which is a lot cooler than Griffin's just Coke ad there on the ground. As the world's first dive coaster, it does kind of just focus on the dive. There's a little bit of a bank after it, but that's about it. And then, I understand that, I respect that. It's the first time doing it, and they can figure out what they're doing. They can really hone in on that. But I think from a modern perspective, it does make it kind of feel almost more like a glorified drop tower, maybe. I'm not saying it's bad at all. It's a cool experience, and having the mist in the hole really adds to this feeling of not knowing what's going on as you plunge into the darkness and add to the sensation of it. But yeah, it was a cool ride. I like the theming. It was extremely short, it's just being dropped. But I mean, I didn't wait very long for it because they had single riders open, so that was nice. Yeah, that's Oblivion right across from the Smiler. Pretty cool. Oop. Is there another? No, there's not another one dropping. Okay. So down here at the bottom of the valley in the middle of the park, they have this like pagoda that is spewing water out the top. I'm getting dripped on it. I'm not entirely sure if it's from that or if there's rain. Could be either, honestly. But this is a very pretty area. There's like all these flowers around it. It's this nice little like nature walk, and I think I felt some more breezes down here than I do in the rest of the park. But the stairs are a little steep. Like it's not as rough immediately as like the stairs at Busch Gardens that goes through the middle where the Rhine River cruise is. But I think it's a more kind of sustained low level, so it ends up building up to a similar place of strain. But it's pretty down here. Okay, so the way back up the other side took a lot more out of me. I don't know if it's just because I was coming up or if the steps really are that much steeper. They definitely seem like they could be more treacherous, especially if it was raining a bit more. They seem like a little slick, you know, in the way that steps in the US would not be. But there's this beautiful view. So I guess it was worth it. You know, if we're gonna need to sit down when I get to a bench. Found a bench way quicker than I was expecting. It's like right here, just on the path. Whew. That's definitely a neat section of the park. You know, as much as, you know, Busch Gardens props itself up as being like the world's most beautiful theme park, it doesn't really have that much of like a nature preserve type area. It doesn't have like a botanical garden, even though like Busch Gardens is in the name. I think that's definitely something they do, and I think it's something that would definitely enhance some of the attractions like the train or the Rhine River cruise, to just have something more beautiful and interesting to look at when it's, you know, outside of like Christmas time, when it's specifically done with the lights. But this was kind of like if you took like a, I'm trying not to get my fingers in the camera, it's like if you took a nature preserve and put it in the middle of the theme park, which is neat. And I feel like it's probably something that's not that uncommon here in the UK and Europe, because I know Efteling is like, I'm trying to make sure I look in the camera, Efteling is like originally designated as like a nature park, and then it was added on themed elements, but they have to make sure that they're maintaining a certain amount of that nature and keeping that status as, if not a historical site, like a natural beauty site. So that's cool. And like Alton Towers has a similar thing where it's, you know, built around the historic towers because they got to preserve. But yeah, this is let's see, can I rotate the, I'll just flip the camera around. This is kind of the view I'm getting right now. It's very peaceful. You can hear, you know, a little bit of roller coaster sounds and screaming, but it's one of the quietest places I found in a park, which, you know, is valuable. I know there are some like little corners of like Disneyland that some people really like to go to, but I even though I had a pretty good amount of time there, I didn't feel like I had the time to like really go and explore little corners, and I don't have much more time here. But unless I'm miscalculating things, because I haven't seen the whole park yet, it seems smaller and maybe easier, maybe. But I'm having a good time so far, so I'm gonna rest up here a bit and catch you later. So the Curse at Alton Manor is a really fun dark ride where the idea is that you've kind of come to an open house for potentially buying the manor, but then quickly you learn the backstory of Emily Alton, who was completely rebuked by her father and died at a New Year's party and is now haunting the house. Then you become her plaything, and she's literally like putting you in her dollhouse, and there's these giant models of Emily like coming through the roof and things like that, and there's a lot of mixture of screens and practical effects. In some ways it does kind of feel like an elevated version of an old-fashioned ghost train, where there's a lot of times where you're in darkness and then they'll play a loud noise, flashlight, there'll be something spooky you're looking at, but then there are also these really nice scenes, like especially like the one right before you go to the dollhouse, so there's like these creepy scarecrows all around you. There's this one that's like following you from like a little walkway. It's really cool, a really fun ride, very spooky, and a lot of jump scares and like use of like different practical effects that makes me smile. So Nemesis behind me was one of my most anticipated rides coming to the park. It's an inverted coaster that goes around. I can't really get a great view of it from here, but it's a giant like alien creature that is like crash landed and you see the train coming out now. And then there's this animated eyeball where it looks around. And when I was leaving the park yesterday, it looked like they had it sleeping, which is kind of fun. Basically, the whole ride is built around this set piece. You go through it and around it. Oh, and there's little claws that move. It's the same model of coaster as Alpengeist at Busch Gardens or Top Gun, whatever the new name is, at Carowinds. But I would say it's shorter and not as intense as Alpengeist. But it has this giant set piece, which is so cool. And like Alpengeist has theming, but not like this level of theming. So it's kind of balancing out if you want the more intense, longer inverted coaster experience, or the one that has this massive, incredible set piece. It still delivers some of the thrill. Nemesis here, much like Alpengeist, is a lot more fun in the front row. I just rode Rita, previously known as Queen of Speed, now just Rita. That's the launch coaster I showed the clip of. Theming on that one is interesting because it used to be like a drag racing kind of thing, but then they rethemed the area around it as the Black Forest. They're like, evil vines have taken over the racetrack, sure. So like aesthetically, the outside kind of looks like for Bolton a little bit, but there's really no decoration on the ride. It's just a launch coaster, a bit like Accelerator at Knott's Berry Farm. Galactica, which you can kind of see behind me. I couldn't get a great angle. It's okay. It's a flying coaster, sort of like Nighthawk. It used to be at Carowinds, or I believe the Superman ride that's at Six Flags somewhere. But it was interesting because so on Nighthawk you sit and the seats tilt back, but in this one you sit and the seats tilt up. It's like done like it's a hanging coaster first. So that was kind of interesting. Overall, I thought it was kind of uncomfortable. Maybe that's just for me and my specific, body requirements. But that was interesting that they actually brought in like some kind of like hex key. There's a train, like a hex key type of device to like give it an extra little lock to keep me in place. I've never seen something do that before, but I mean it held secure. The only thing was that after the ride I had to wait for them to come and unlock me. But it was okay ride. There was barely any theming. At the end there were some posters that made it seem like a travel agency kind of thing, like hey, visit this planet or that planet. So it was kind of neat, but on the ride it's just kind of whatever. It's just you fly around. I thought it was okay. Man is a lot of fun. It feels like the fastest ride I've done here. I don't know if that's true, but it feels fast. You feel like you're really ripping around those turns. There were parts where it felt like a tiny bit rough, but like not in a way that bothered me. Just like, like this is just a little rough, whatever. Definitely one of the better wooden coasters. I think it might be up there with Ghost Rider and Knott's. So, how do I feel about Alton Towers now that I completed 2 days here and I'm standing in the characteristic English rain? I think it's a very fun time. I think they have some fantastic attractions at this resort. Standouts for me being the Smiler, Nemesis, Hex, the Wicker Man, and the Curse at Alton Manor. They have a pretty nice variety of attractions between most of what I listed being roller coasters and also a dark ride and a madhouse, which I hadn't tried before and I really liked. They also have a River Rapids ride, as well as some smaller flat rides and that sort of thing. The only thing they're really lacking in is live entertainment for adults or the whole family. They have shows for children, such as the Hotel Furchester, which was fun and cute, but not really something I would go back again. I was just curious to see what it was. Busch Gardens is still the king of live entertainment and theme parks, as far as I'm concerned. But elsewhere on the resort, the mini golf is fun, but it's nothing special, I'd say, in the world of mini golf. And it's also, some of the holes are difficult in a way that can be probably best described as cheeky. I did not partake of the water park, but it looked really cool. It looked like, for children, that would be an excellent playground to run around in. Overall, the resort has this nice, like, kind of Disney-ish vibe, but I also feel like a lot of the theming feels very like ambitious on a lower budget, almost to the point of feeling like the indie movie version of theme park theming, which lends to this really cool vibe of like just like almost kind of punk, like sort of DIY, but not really. So yeah, I would not say that you should plan a trip to the UK specifically for Alton Towers. I don't think it's quite that level of experience, but if you're already taking a trip to the UK and want to add something a little extra to your trip, Alton Towers is fantastic for that. Well, that's all I had to say. So this is Jarrett, the theme addict from Alton Towers in the UK. And I had a very good 2 days, and may or may not be back in the future, but I'll definitely be keeping an eye on the park, seeing what changes, what becomes new, and whatever their next big attraction is.